There's no law against bad design, which you know if you've spent any time on the internet. The ways a website can be bad, to paraphrase the book Anna Karenina, are all unhappy in their own unique way. But they all spring from one basic conundrum, and that's that you need a lot of information in a very small space. Dealing with that problem will be something you devote a lot of time to. Anyone who builds a website does. Talk to any graphic designer and he or she will tell you that they often feel this tension in meetings with clients. What's the point of aesthetics for aesthetics' sake, the client might say. I want every word of these 3 pages of text on the page and no negative space. You can read an interview below with New York Times graphics editor Amanda Cox where she talks about this balancing act. Design is important and often undervalued, but it's not the end of the road either. It's the content itself that matters most. The best designers are able to strike a balance between the content they need and the aesthetic design that they want. Crucially, they use these aesthetics to communicate quickly and strike the right tone. What do I mean by that? Let's take a look at the New York Times website and the New York Times T-Style magazine. Although both are part of the same news outlet, the design is very different. The purpose of the news website is to report all the most important news worldwide. That's a big task and helps explain why the composition is so busy. The T-Style magazine, on the other hand, reports on design and aesthetics, and so it makes sense that the priority is more on establishing a hierarchy and creating nice negative space and graphics. Aesthetic design is ultimately subjective, based on personal preference and on culture. If you think of the 1980s, for example, there's a series of associated colors, fonts, and aesthetic styles. But these aesthetics turn into a type of functionality, and I'll give you a silly but apt example by looking at the website of 2 CIAs. One is the Central Intelligence Agency, and the other is the Culinary Institute of America. It's fair to say they have very different audiences that inform the design choices they made. The friendly color palette, fonts, and clear hierarchy of the cooking school serve to attract potential students. The quantity of links and lack of attention to both elaboration and modern-looking aesthetics on the CIA site gives the impression that they're a little bureaucratic and definitely limited in what content they want to share. But imagine putting the fonts and color scheme of the cooking school onto the spy agency's website. It wouldn't work at all to our eye. Whether we realize it or not, the composition and design choices of a page are major players in the success of the message. Of interest to us now is the functional side of good design, and it boils down to good hierarchy and good navigation. Good navigation in web design means your menus, headlines, and content are edited and presented in the most intuitive way possible. Bad navigation means that it's hard for the user to find what he or she is looking for. You can watch the videos below for a more detailed discussion about different navigation styles. It's better to edit very tightly than to try to include too many navigation options. For example, you might not need a separate About Me page if you put your contact information or a short bio on your front page. As you chart out your own hierarchy in site architecture, think about creating sections where you might send users directly, rather than hoping a user will click around on your site. For example, on my own website I have a section for photojournalism and another for teaching, and I would share those direct links depending on my audience, rather than the more generic front page. We'll see you in lesson 3.